First, let's start with this case. So back in our college days, we were a group of 4. Me, Ethan, Vivian, and Jayesh. Names are changed. Jayesh was Indian and he had come to our college to study. Actually, me and Jayesh were both foreigners who were here to study. I chose to settle down here. Jayesh came from a very wealthy family. They have a very big jewelry business. From what I learned from Jayesh, he was a native of the state Rajasthan in India, and people from that state are really famous for being involved in business and are ultra-conservative, very religious, don't consume alcohol and meat, etc. Here is where the story starts. We graduated about 4 years ago and we're all busy in our lives, but we're still in touch with each other. As mentioned earlier, I too was a foreigner from an Eastern European country, but chose to settle in America. Jayesh went back to India. One day, Jayesh had us all on a call and informed us that he is getting married in India and invited us to the wedding. He offered all of us first-class tickets to and fro. The wedding took place in a 5-star hotel, and the festivities lasted for a week. It was literally a free luxury vacation for us. Jayesh informed us beforehand that alcohol and meat-based food won't be available in the wedding, and we had no problem with that. When we arrived in India and reached the venue, we were overwhelmed. There was different dress code for each time of each day. Tailors available to personally stitch the clothes for the guests, sightseeing tours of the city, and whatnot. Ethan seemed a bit miffed during the 4th day. When his discontent was getting way more visible, I asked him what the issue was. He said that this wedding feels so crappy without alcohol and food feels incomplete without meat. I told him that he was okay with it when the invitation was made, and he can either suck it up and enjoy the wedding, it's not like the food was bad or anything, the food was great, or leave, which made him cranky for the entire trip. When we returned, he told me that it was rude of me to tell him to suck it up, and he was forced to get through a dry wedding for a week. I told him that if he was miffed about alcohol and meat, amidst all that grand festivities that basically made the wedding a free vacation, there is some serious issue with him, and he is acting very ungrateful. Am I in the wrong for saying that? Let's start judging. You're not in the wrong. He does need to grow up and suck it up. He got a free week's vacation in India. He wasn't banned from alcohol and meat for a week. He could have spent his own money outside the wedding and got those things. It sounds like he behaved like a toddler. Personally, I think you're not in the wrong. He was complaining about something that isn't a real issue. You pointed it out. He's pissed. That's on him. Ethan was an uninformed, hangry alcoholic who was detoxing without warning because he couldn't be bothered to do basic research on the country region he was going to. Also, a brat who has no concept of how much your friend's family spent on bringing him there. You're not in the wrong. Next up, Let's start judging. Sounds like a deliberate ambush to make you the bad guys. Now you have 2 or more people to avoid. Maybe see if you can have a conversation with some of the other family. Find out what brother-in-law's problem is with you, the real one, not this BS. You're not in the wrong. The screamer appears to have wanted to blindside you with the icky guest. You calmly did the right thing, and he was being a total idiot. I think you need to be done with him. You're not in the wrong. They knew you wouldn't and did this on purpose. Your brother-in-law can do whatever he wants, and so can you. If you do talk, would tell him that too, and let him know you won't tolerate being ambushed and then yelled at ever again. So yes, you can invite anyone you want, and I can make a decision to not come to your house ever again. Next up, my daughter is in the 6th grade. Every morning, I have her take a couple of dollars out of my wallet for lunch money. In the last few weeks, several times I have noticed that I am missing a little bit more money than usual. So, this week, I planted a $20 bill before my daughter took her lunch money out. Sure enough, she took it. I called the police and asked them to come with me to the school so that we could teach my daughter a lesson. 2 officers met me there, and we pulled my daughter out of class, after which she informed one of the officers that there has been a bully who is stealing her lunch money / forcing my daughter to buy her lunch. She also has been buying lunch for one of her friends who cannot afford it. This was confirmed by both the bully and the friend. My daughter was silent on the way home, and I informed her that I was just trying to teach her a lesson, that stealing is wrong and can get you in a lot of trouble, and that in the future she needs to speak to myself or her mother if there are issues at school, and we would be happy to help her resolve them. When we got home, my wife absolutely lost her nonsense on me in full tears, telling me that this is a one-way ticket to estrangement from our daughter in the future, and that we should have just asked her why she was stealing money. She would have just lied about stealing in the first place, so I really don't understand what her idea of a solution is. My daughter apparently told my wife that she is terrified that her bully will now retaliate, and also that she may have lost her friend for bringing so much attention to her financial issue. She apologized for stealing and said she just didn't want us to intervene. I'm wondering if I really did the wrong thing here. Am I in the wrong? Let's start judging. You're in the wrong, and your daughter will never trust or respect you again. She knows she can't. You should have talked to her about it first, instead of calling the police and embarrassing her in front of the entire school. You're in the wrong for humiliating your daughter before even talking to her about the issue, like a decent parent would. You didn't even give your daughter a chance to lie. But you did humiliate her at school, in front of her peers. And she's right. There is a good chance her bully will retaliate. If this is all she's done wrong, this was a huge overreaction, IMO. No, stealing is not okay, but you didn't even try to have a conversation about it before bringing police to her school. And now, anytime something goes missing in her class, she will probably be the first one to get blamed by her peers. Next up, I, 35M, have a friend, Steve, 48, who accidentally got Stephanie, 44, pregnant about a decade ago, and they now have a daughter, Chloe, 9. I met Steve last year at a park while walking my dog, and we became friends since he lives nearby and also has a dog. Steve's a good guy who cares deeply about his daughters. He has 3 adult daughters from another relationship. Whenever I'm with Steve and Stephanie calls, she often seems ridiculous. Sometimes she calls over minor things. Other times, she's frantic, like she's on the verge of a breakdown. She's a helicopter parent and very possessive of Chloe. Stephanie doesn't let Chloe visit Steve alone. The first time Steve ever took Chloe anywhere without her was recently, and only because one of his adult daughters went with them to a movie. Steve said Stephanie blew up Chloe's phone the entire time. Steve wanted to teach Chloe to ski, but Stephanie told him it wasn't appropriate for a 9-year-old and that he needed to find a better activity. Every idea Steve has for activities gets shut down with an excuse. Despite this, Stephanie often makes passive-aggressive comments like, "Come over here and be a dad," even though Steve gives her at least $250 a month, voluntarily, no court order, and spends multiple evenings a week at her place to be with Chloe. as that's Stephanie's idea of visitation. She makes it seem like he isn't a good father or something, when it is she that doesn't really let Chloe hang out with friends. She that bought Chloe a smartphone due to her incessant need to always be able to contact her. She who isolates Chloe from Steve's side of the family, and she who is always worrying about making rent, yet only has a part-time job and spends money that should be going towards other things on weed. When Steve brought up to Stephanie that he thought that 9 is way too young to have a smartphone, his concerns were all ignored. When he brought up that he doesn't like Chloe being around her when she is smoking weed due to secondhand smoke, the issue was disregarded. Recently, Stephanie moved, and I helped Steve while she mostly stood around watching. Her place looked like it was recently featured on Hoarders. That day, Stephanie took Chloe to the ER for the flu as urgent care won't see her without insurance. Later, I told Steve about the Affordable Care Act and how he could get insurance for himself and Chloe. The next day, Steve asked Stephanie for Chloe's Social Security number to enroll her, and Stephanie freaked out, saying, "I don't even give Chloe's SSN to the state." She claimed Chloe was already insured, and when asked by Steve who the insurer was, she mumbled something vague. I directly asked, "Who is she insured through then?" And Stephanie snapped, yelling, "We are her parents." When we left, Steve said, "See what I'm dealing with? How she snapped at you?" I replied that she had a point. It's not really my business. What do you think? Was I an idiot for asking who insures her child? Edit. I wanted to add that I have already advised him to get an attorney. He mentioned once that his brother is in huge debt over attorney fees to get time with his own daughter. I let him know that many attorneys will work with you and let you pay in monthly installments, and he was very receptive. I was going to include that in the original post, but was limited to 3,000 characters. Why he hasn't done this already? I don't know. I mean, I certainly would have long ago. Also, that about $250 is in addition to him paying a big portion of her rent every month. Let's start judging. Everyone sucks. You need to mind your business. Steve needs to stop being such a victim. He's nearly 50 and should be able to navigate both insurance and a court case if he wants joint legal custody. And the mom is a helicopter problem. You're in the wrong. Literally, none of this is your business. And Steve is playing you. If he wanted to be able to take Chloe in his own, he would have gone to court years ago to get some custody. He doesn't want to do that, though, because then he'd end up paying more than $250 in child support. The fact that you make that sound so generous of him shows you know nothing about the cost of raising a child. Steve doesn't want to deal with the courts because he doesn't want to have to pay more and doesn't really want any custody of his daughter. Learn to mind your own business. You're in the wrong. You are old enough to realize that $62.50 a week is absolutely nothing compared to the true costs of raising a child. What the hell do you think you are getting involved in? What happens in someone else's family? You can be a friend to him by listening, nothing else. You have absolutely no right to say anything to the mother about how she's raising her child, money, or anything else. Get your own family if you want it. Your friend seems like a trailer trash, lazy father